Hi guys and welcome. We are just over halfway through our prelims and today we have Gillian Higgins with us from Horses Inside Out. We are going to be talking about when anatomy comes alive, which is just one of my favorite topics, so I'm really excited. We are 18 days away from the Vet Rehab Summit. I cannot believe that it is so close. And if you've been joining us for the prelims, you'll know that we're getting to know our lecturers in a new and fun way. So Gillian, if you're ready, I'm going to ask you a couple of fun questions. We're going to get into it and we're going to get to know a different side of you. Are you ready?
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Okay, if you could swap lives with one animal for a day, which would you choose?
Oh, I don't know. Probably a bird so I could fly.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Do you have flying dreams?
Yes, I can fly in my dreams.
I like that. I haven't had them since childhood. So
oh no, yes. I regularly have them. That's great. I just lean forward and I can fly. It's great. Love it.
What is one thing that most people would be surprised to learn about you?
Oh, I would say I've got skeletons in my closet, but you know, here I am. Maybe that's not so surprising to some people, but yes, to others.
Okay, I have a skeleton next to my bed on my bedside table because that's where I'm generally reaching for it, and that surprises a lot of people. That is weird.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions. Do you prefer working with foals or seniors?
Both.
Both. Do you prefer to be in a quiet stable or under a tree in the pasture?
What, me personally or treating horses is this?
It could be both. It could be either.
Well, I'm going to go with under a tree.
Under a tree. I like it. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Yes. Do you prefer or do you more often reach for strengthening exercises or stretching exercises? And again, it could be you or your horses.
Strengthening.
Strengthening. Mm-hmm. Do you prefer reading or podcasts?
Both.
Both. Yes. Teaching or
just fantastic. But yeah, reading at home is I do like a proper book.
A good book.
As you've probably guessed by 13 now.
Are you reading anything at the moment?
I am reading Poisonwood Bible actually at the moment, which I'm quite enjoying. That's non-horsey, but there we go.
Okay, no, I like it. All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think this year's theme, Dynamic by Design, is for our profession and why?
I don't know. I don't know if you can put a number on it exactly. I would say that dynamic by design, when we look at anatomy and when we consider horses, is so important. We think they have evolved to move, and I think a lot of the problems that we have with horses these days could be alleviated or maybe even prevented with movement and the right sort of movement. So yeah, I think that's really, really important.
I love that. Thank you so much. All right, guys, if you are joining us live, it is so good to have you. We have Gillian Higgins with us today. She is one of our Vet Rehab Summit lecturers, and we are going to dive a little bit deeper into bringing anatomy to life. So, Gillian, why is it so important to see anatomy in motion rather than just in textbooks?
Oh, absolutely. And I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there, because that is exactly what I'm about and how Horses Inside Out started. So I think with the skeleton, muscles, other anatomical structures painted on the sides of real live horses, it really brings the subject to life. And traditionally, and certainly sort of 19, 20 years ago, when I first started Horses Inside Out, anatomy was considered to be a difficult and a boring subject. But I really wanted to change that. And I think my experience of learning about equine therapy and anatomy is very different to what is available today. And I like to think that I've really helped to change that journey for a lot of people and make things a bit different, because anatomy is absolutely fascinating, and I think it underpins everything that we do. And if we have a really good understanding of how the horse works, of anatomy, it can help us to, well, improve the way we ride, improve the way we train, and improve the way we look after, approach horses, how we connect with them. It truly can make such a difference. And I think when we consider horses, they've been involved with humans throughout history. And in a way, that's a fantastic thing. But also when you look back at history and the traditions and what's considered normal and what's considered acceptable, and we do this because we've always done it, actually doesn't always help us. And I think having a really good understanding of anatomy can, well, help to challenge and help us to understand what we should be doing for our horses. What is the right way of looking after them? What is the right way of training? What's the right way of doing therapy or rehab or riding? Every single aspect. I just think it's so important. So for me, obviously, I find the subject absolutely fascinating myself. I'm quite passionate about it. And, you know, all the dissections that we run, all the courses that we do. I mean, every dissection that I lead, I learn something new, and I just find it absolutely fascinating. But I think it is the application of the information as well. Because if you say, look at a picture in a book and it just lists or labels up the anatomical structures, what does that mean to somebody new? It probably means a whole load of Latin words that are long and complicated and doesn't really, there's no connection there. Yeah. So really, with everything that we do with Horses Inside Out, we try and add that connection. So whether it be a live painted horse lecture demonstration where we're really talking about the training techniques, the riding in harmony as well as therapy in harmony, or whether it be the dissection courses, or whether it be the anatomy exhibitions that we run, we've got a lot of interactive sort of 3D models so that people can learn about the structures, but it's all applied back to riding, training and management. And I just think that is so important.
I love that connection back to riding, training and management, because that is how we improve welfare and care at the end of the day. So I think that's very valuable.
Yeah.
So when people come to your demonstrations and they see the way that horses are moving with the painted muscles, how does that change their understanding of biomechanics? Because I think that could be very impactful.
Yeah, I think in a huge number of different ways. I think that there's so many people say to me, oh, I wish I'd learned this. I wish I'd understood this years ago. This information explains the why behind elements, shall we say, training, whether it be therapy, whether it be riding. And I think that is really what's so fantastic about what I do, is hearing these. Oh, wow, this really helps to explain things for me. I mean, I could give specific examples. If we think, for example, say about the horse's hip joint, there's not just the hip. Let me just say this. In anatomy, there are so many misconceptions.
Yes.
This is huge. And I think probably because a lot of people don't have a particularly good, I'm not talking necessarily about medical professionals here or physiotherapists, but I think a lot of people don't have that good an understanding about their own basic anatomy. So they already have good ideas about where parts of their own body is. And then you put that on a horse and it changes again. So there's those misconceptions layered up about our own bodies and then layered onto the horse as well as that. So classic one, of course, is the positioning of the neck. We can feel our own neck vertebrae along the back of our neck. So we automatically assume that the horse's neck vertebrae are along the top. And I like to think that we're moving on from that now. But, you know, it's even looking at this skeleton behind me, it's almost difficult to imagine where the structures are, with the soft tissue structures, when you're just looking at a skeleton like this. When you're looking at a picture in the book, it's still easy to imagine. But then when you have it painted on the horse, it really does bring it to life. And I like to say I do have less people now telling me that I've painted the neck in the wrong place, which is good compared to 20 years ago. The number of people that used to come up to me and say, did you know you've got the neck vertebrae in the wrong place? They actually run along the top of the neck. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
But that's I like to think that things have moved on from that now. But other levels of misconceptions about anatomy, I would say things like range of movement. So I'm always talking about, in order to have a healthy, one aspect of having a healthy body, and this is something that I will talk about in my talks at the Vet Rehab Summit, although we can't do everything, because in order to have a healthy body, you need to move all of your joints through a full range of movement on a regular basis. Same for the horse. But in order for us as trainers, and I like to think of ourselves as a bit like personal trainers to our horses, we need to understand what is the anatomical normal range of movement in every single joint in the horse's body in order to have the horse to use that movement. And not only that, we need to understand how position of one part of the body affects range of movement in another. And not only that, the position of a single joint, whether it's flexion or extension, will affect the amount of lateral flexion or rotation available at that individual joint. So there's a lot that we need to learn. And I always say, we need to understand this range of movement, but we can't do it all in one session. That's a lot of studying. And I think it's something that all therapists, anybody that's involved in manual therapy, anybody that's involved in moving the horse, in order to test range of movement, you've got to first of all understand it. So I think within that, there are misconceptions about where movement happens, where movement comes from. And that would be a really, really big one that I think is massively important. Other misconceptions, because you mentioned muscles, I would say, is around this idea of suppleness versus strength. Another sort of key component, I think, of maintaining a healthy body is balancing strength and suppleness versus flexibility and stability. That's right. Flexibility and suppleness versus strength and stability. So balancing those two, and of course you could say stiffness or weakness. That balance is, that's hugely important, getting that balance right.
And it's
going with, and I've actually forgotten what the question was now. I've talked so long, but anyway,
no, I think you did better than answer the question. You went through some really interesting misconceptions, which I think were super valuable. So I love that that's balancing the scales between strength, stability, suppleness, mobility. Like, where is weakness? It's quite a tricky one to actually figure out. It's not always obvious, and more people are talking about hypermobility. There's a lack of stability, and some of the pathologies that are getting a lot of attention now are linked to that potential lack of stability. And so it's a very interesting conversation to dive deeper into.
Yeah, and I think as well, because this is something I talk about in the Dressage Dissected presentation a bit, I think that you can talk about that balance regarding the whole horse or areas of the horse, and of course areas of the horse affect the whole horse, so it's it's very, very much linked, but it's fascinating. And then of course you add in the rider as well. It becomes something else. But I would say this though as well, just thinking about the word weakness, should a healthy horse be weak? Okay, we could say if they're young, but if you had an 8, 9, 10-year-old, should they be weak, or is there a reason why they're weak? And I think this comes back to the question of discomfort and the question of pain that sometimes is often overlooked. So I do think asking the question why is massively important. And then you can start thinking about symmetry or asymmetry versus lameness. And at what point does asymmetry become lameness? And this is actually a topic that we're doing at our conference. Our conference is Soundness and Symmetry. And that's next February. We've got our early bird offer that ends the end of October. So if anybody wants a really good discount for it, make sure you jump in before the end of October. We've got loads of different speakers, but actually Sue Dyson's going to be talking about what is acceptable asymmetry versus unacceptable lameness. And I think that is a question that comes up
all the time.
But I also think that there are unacceptable levels of asymmetry that are not noticed or unquestioned, passed off as, the horse is, it goes back to the what's acceptable through our history, doesn't it? And I think, often if you look at artwork through history, I've probably gone off on a tangent now, haven't I? This is what Just in case you didn't know that, I do tend to do tangents quite well.
Love it.
Art through history, because being who I am, I'm a bit creative, a bit arty. But, historically, horses have been depicted with their ears back, their mouths open, the whites of their eyes showing, and maybe spur marks on the sides or injuries and unrealistic conformation. But I think that tells us what was acceptable at that time. And then, so for a lot of people, if that's considered a normal horse, then how can that makes it quite a challenge to change the bar for modern day, I think, which is interesting. Anyway, as I say, that was a tangent.
No, I really love that. I mean, even today that is relevant. There are so many depictions of abnormal that are normalized. And if we're thinking of, like you said, the pain expressions, the pain signs, asymmetry, right? If these things are depicted within our elite performance horses, and then we're normalizing them. And it's a very difficult conversation. I actually don't think we should go into that specifically, but it is something that needs further exploring. I love that your conference is centered around that topic. I think that is going to be so good. And Sue Dyson is brilliant. We have Kevin Hausler redefining laterality at the Vet Rehab Summit, which is going to be really cool. I always love what he comes to the table with. So
yeah, he's
very excited about that. Okay, so guys, this is great. I love the tangents, Gillian. They're fantastic. Let's talk a little bit more about like visual learning tools and how they help us to become better therapists. So earlier you mentioned range of motion as one example of that, and I think that's very important, because if we don't understand normal range of motion, and then as you mentioned, like how segmental range of motion is going to affect the whole, then how do we bring positive change? How do we recognize when it is under or over mobile, and then how do we bring positive change to that? So how do visual learning aids help us to bridge that gap?
Hugely. How do visual aids help us to bridge the gap between on the paper versus truly understanding movement? I think for a lot of people, just looking at a 2D picture, as I said before, there's a lack of relevance there. It doesn't necessarily the names on of the structures. Whereas actually, if you can get hands-on with bones and physically move them and feel the range of movement, you're going to understand more. So many people don't just learn from looking at a picture in a book, but actually feeling, seeing, experiencing, getting those connections. The learning, everyone's learning styles is different. And I think that's, learning by doing is massively important. I'll give you an example. So here, this model, this skeleton, because you haven't actually mentioned where I am. I mean, how often is it surrounded by skeletons? But this one here, this is quite a special one. If I just move her over, this is Lulu. She is, she was 3.5. But on this side, I don't know if you can see, but we've got painted on the blue and red attachment points for all the for the main muscles, the movement muscles. But here we've got the different. Look, can you see that? Oh, it's probably backwards. Is that backwards? I don't know. Anyway, that says infraspinatus, just in case you can't read it. So we've then got the muscles, and you can stick on the attachment points, which I can tell you, this one is quite an advanced interaction. Yeah, exactly. But another thing that's fantastic, I just think we've got quite a few different things like that. So it's not just about these structures, but really getting into the detail of it and being able to learn by doing rather than just learn by seeing. I think for me, and probably because of my learning style, that's been something that's absolutely huge. I'll tell you something else that's really interesting about this one as well, because she, in 2023, the theme of our conference was growth and development. And we have an anatomy exhibition alongside our conference. And I really wanted to demonstrate different skeletons through the ages. So we've got a yearling, and then we had a 10-year-old, and then we've got the 25-year-old skeleton. But I wanted something else. I wanted something, because I think very often immaturity, skeletal immaturity, is seen as you're either immature or you're mature. But actually, I wanted something to represent the skeleton of a horse that's approximately the age of when a lot of horses are started. So fantastic to have this one to the collection, because you can see which growth plates are still open, which are still closed. And it's absolutely fascinating to think that this horse was just starting being ridden and seeing which are open and which are closed. So that was fascinating. But this one behind me, he has been a fantastic learning opportunity. This one is Freddie Fox. So for those of you that don't know, he is the original Horses Inside Out horse. He was the horse that I started painting 19 years ago. He was there at the very, very beginning of Horses Inside Out. He's actually the one that creates the logo for the business as well. And so I had him from when he was 5 to when he was 25. And so I really, really knew him. To me, he has helped so many people learn about anatomy. He took part in the lecture demonstrations, and he's on the front cover of all my books. And I knew that he was going to carry on teaching. It was a huge decision, but to have his skeleton still here for people to be able to learn from is just fantastic. And to be able to see pathologies and see the effect of age and life on the bones, and to be able to compare them to the other ages is just fascinating. So we've got a lot to learn from him. And I think going back to your questions, having different examples. So rather than just thinking, there's this thing called arthritis, which can affect joint range of movement, but actually being able to see, having multiple examples. Now, I'm not saying that everyone is the same. Every joint is going to be slightly different, but to be able to see a range of examples and really see and feel the effects when you compare the bones. And of course, here we're just talking about the bones. It's not those are the only structures that are going to be affected, but it gives us a really good starting point. And certainly with Freddie, there was a lot we expected, but there were surprises as well. So that was also very, very interesting.
I think that's such an amazing legacy to be able to have Freddie Fox here with you still, and like for all the years to come. I think that's it's amazing. And I applaud you for that. That must have been a horrifyingly difficult decision. Did you do like a full dissection on him, or did you not?
I didn't. So obviously I've done with a lot of other horses in the past, but with Freddie, I didn't really feel that I wanted to. However, he did go to Bristol University, and they did an autopsy and gave quite a lot of information and photos and things like that. So we've got the information, but personally I wasn't there. That was one step too far for me.
Yes.
But so he arrived back probably 9 months later from my friends at Bristol, and there's just the individual bones. And then we decided to build him in a trotting pose. You probably can't see from where you are, but he's built in the same trotting pose as this one. Probably given a little bit more vavavoom, and I took 10 years off his back posture by but so it felt like an honor, to be honest.
Yes.
It felt I really wanted it to do him justice. A lot of people say, how was it really emotional? I think it was, but to me, this isn't Freddie. This is his bones left behind. He's somewhere else. But to have them is just fantastic. And we unveiled his skeleton at the 2023 conference, and oh my goodness, that was really emotional. That was incredible. But then I wanted more, because I thought skeleton. People could come and see when they come on courses here and when we run our exhibitions. But I wanted more. I thought, we've got so many photos and videos of him throughout his life. And probably because of what I do, we have some great people looking after him, part of his team. So we created this documentary series called The Bare Bones of the Matter, involving all the different members of his team, plus loads of other and speakers, using his skeleton and his life as a case study, and then looking at what are the best practices in all different aspects. So whether it be dentistry, Dr. Chris Pierce. We did Healthy Bones with Sue Dyson. Got Mark Johnson, the farrier. So I think there's like about 25 different presenters involved in the whole series. So that has been really, really special. And I'd like to think he's going to carry on helping people learn more about anatomy and welfare, really. That's what it's about. Ultimately, I think learning anatomy is going to help us improve our horse's welfare.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that connection is so important, because so often, even if we are hands-on with the skeletons and we're feeling the different ways that they're connecting and moving, like you say, there's that you're still then missing the soft tissues. And then even if you're in a dissection and you're looking at it from that perspective, you're still then missing, what did this horse feel like, move like when they were alive? So to be able to create that connection between what was the living picture, and then what are we looking at when we're looking at the bones and the structure underneath it? I think that is a phenomenal connection to create. So Gillian, I want to say a big thank you. It's been so good learning from you today. I cannot wait for the Vet Rehab Summit. You guys, 18 days. It is so close. Gillian is going to be speaking about dressage dissected, and show jumping from the anatomical perspective. And now I'm getting tongue-tied. It's going to be so good.
That was it.
There we go. So it's going to be fantastic. If you haven't registered yet, registration is free. You can come and watch the entire live event for free. It's going to be so much fun. Come and connect with us. Join us. Learn more from Freddie Fox. He's going to be featured in those presentations. It's going to be really great. Thank you so much, Gillian.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Bye, guys.